Sometimes you might want to subset your data. So perhaps you want to perform an analysis only on a particular portion or only on folks who meet certain qualifiers or what have you. And oftentimes it's easier to subset it into a different object. And so that way you can just run your analysis and, go on with your life. The nice thing about this is when you subset within R, nothing happens to that original data file because you read the data into R, and then now everything you're doing is working within the R environment. So subsetting it, splitting it by age, by grouping variable, by what have you, is going to leave your original file just as it was. Nothing happens there. So that can be really useful. So as there are two main ways that we can subset data, and then there's a third, more advanced way that using something called the tidyverse. So the first one that I'll show you is using the which function. And it's kind of saying, hey, select these things which meet these qualities. With all of these, as a sidebar, always assign them to, a new object, because simply running this without assigning it to a new object does nothing. And I have made that mistake more times than I care to admit. So we are going to start, excuse me, and we're going to use our MT cars dataset. And so maybe I only want cars that have 6 cylinders. So I'll make a new object here and I'll call it MT cars _6. So that way I know that that's what that thing is. And so I need to start with my original data frame object. So DF is where I read in my data, that's where all of my data lives. So I'm like, I need to start with the original thing. Then I use a square bracket and I'm going to say which, because I only want to select certain things, and then open parentheses. And then I'm going to choose the cylinder column. So notice how I'm using this $ operator to say, look in the data frame, but only in a specific column. And then R tries to be helpful and say, hey, look, here are your available columns. And so cylinder is what I want. So what I've got now is I said, hey, look at this object called DF, but I want you to select certain things, only a certain category, which meet these conditions. What are the conditions? Well, for the cylinder column of the data frame, I want that to equal, two equal signs, to be exactly equal to 6. So I'm saying, again, look at the data frame, only select rows where cylinder is exactly equal to 6. And then I'm going to put a comma, because what I'm doing here with these square brackets, anything that comes first is rows. Anything that comes after the comma is columns. So since I'm not selecting anything, like I want all of my columns to stay the same, like I want the miles per gallon, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not putting anything here. And what that means is I'm going to keep all of the original columns, but the only rows I'm keeping are going to be where cylinder is exactly equal to 6. You can do it the opposite way. You can only keep certain columns, but all rows, if you really wanted to. So when I run this, I'm going to hit Control Enter there. I see my new object up here under data. So it's MT cars _6. Now I only have 7 observations, but I still have 11 variables. And we can use one of our new functions, 6. And we can see down here, we still have all of our variables, but the only ones that we kept were cylinders, were 6-cylinder things. Okay. Another way that we could accomplish this is by using the subset function. So let's see, T cars, no, we'll keep it at 6. Take 2. There we go. So I'm making another object. I don't want it to be named the same because I want to be able to look at both of them. And for the subset function, here we start with subset. And the first thing that we have to say is, what data are we subsetting? So we're going to be subsetting this DF data frame again. And then we say we want to subset for cylinder exactly equal to 6. And then we want, let's say, miles per gallon, cylinder, and whatever disp means. So we're both selecting certain rows and certain columns here. We could leave this empty and it would just select everything. Okay. So we can do that and take a peek at it. And now we see we only retained 6 cylinders, but we also only retained 3 columns. To kind of illustrate real quick, we can do that. And if we just didn't include that select, we would get the exact same as we did with which. So 6 version 3, just like that. Okay. And then the last one is a tidyverse way. So I need to call that library first. And this is a more advanced function. So if you're not interested in learning about this one, no problem. You can just go ahead and stop the video now. But what this does is, let's see, we'll move it to 4 cylinders this time, is it starts with a data frame, and then it uses a pipe. And so it basically says, hey, send this line to the next line. Whatever we do here, send it to the next line. And oftentimes this is a little bit easier to read by humans, rather than trying to see what all is nested in here. And then we would use the filter function, and we would say we want cylinders, maybe we would say cylinders exactly equal to 4. And excuse me, run that, and we see over here we have our new data object, mtcars4. This time we have 11 observations of all 11 variables. And so we can take a peek at that and see we still have all of our variables up here, but only the 4-cylinder cars this time. So that's a number of different ways that you can subset your data. Neither one is more or less correct than the other, just different ways of getting to the same end goal.